I think it might be a good idea for you to see a doctor, Alfredo.
What kind of doctor? Like a psychiatrist?
Well, I know a guy, and
You think I'm crazy?
well, no, I didn't say that. It just seems like you're going through some stuff, and maybe he could just check some things out, make sure you don't have some sort of social disease, or you're a Republican, or worse, you could be a podcaster.
Indeed, I am a podcaster, audience. And with that, welcome once more to another episode of Cinema Forecast. Today is the second installment in It Could Be Anyone month, and we are watching the 1978 movie,
The Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
which was a point of contention. The year is important. There's 4 different versions of this movie, 4 different remakes. I think only 3 of them have the name Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think actually only 2. I think maybe the Abel Ferrara one is called Body Snatchers. But it was actually we dodged a bullet last night. Me procrastinating and being overly cautious. I texted Connor. I was like, "You watched the 56 one, right?" And he goes, "Nope, watch the 78." I was like, "Cool." I was just about to start it. That's not what the text chain looked like. There was a lot more silence in the text chain. But hey, you roll with it.
Yeah, at least you had just started the 56 one. I was worried that you had just finished it, and then I was like, "Oh,
I almost
crap."
watched it that morning and almost watched it without thinking about contacting you.
Yeah.
But late at night, after having dealt with several needy guests and also some lots of very lovely guests, I was like, let me just, as I do at work, make sure everything is plainly communicated. You're not gonna put that somebody has fucking dairy sensitivity on the header of your ticket, and then not also put, when you ring up a pasta with Parmesan and butter on it, hey, dairy sensitivity. You check all the boxes. So here at Cinema Forecast, remember, we're checking boxes. Typically 4 of them a month.
That's right.
Yes. And this, of course, is Cinema Forecast, the movie podcast where every month we are randomly assigned a category with 4 movies attached. 4 movies that we feel fit this category. And each week we go in depth into each one of those movies. And we talk about it, you guessed it, in the context of that category. I already said what it is. It could be anyone. We already said the movie. Connor's seen this movie before. I haven't. I've seen the 56 one. I haven't seen any other adaptations of it. Haven't read the book.
Yeah, I watched it one time, but watching it again, I realized how little I think I was actually watching it, because I think it was one of those movies that we put on with a group of friends, and then halfway through shenanigans started happening, and then it was more on in the background, because there's a lot of stuff I don't or didn't remember watching
A
it.
gentleman never kisses and tells, never kisses and tells.
But
Connor
wow.
was fucking during this movie.
God, this movie was genuinely pretty horrifying.
Yeah, I love the concept of it is great.
Yeah.
Also, maybe my favorite adaptation of Body Snatchers is track 2 of In Rainbows,
Yeah. I wonder, is that just straight from this story? It's gotta be, right?
Well, the term pod people has become very, this, are you I think with the beef when this movie was made, it was already very much, I think, in
Iconic.
the social consciousness,
Yeah.
those phrases. I think maybe after this one specifically is when people started saying pod people more, or maybe the first one, I don't know, but I feel like, yeah, this movie definitely feels like it is always kind of there in my mind.
I feel like I've seen a bunch of parodies of people pointing and doing the screeching as they're I don't know, that seems like something in Family Guy or a bunch of other cartoons.
Yeah, the ending for that was kept completely secret for the rest of the actors.
Oh,
so
really?
When Nancy, who is played by Veronica Cartwright, when she runs up to Donald Sutherland at the end, and he's and he does the point and screech, her terror is, there's some genuine
I love that.
terror in that, because she didn't know how it was gonna end.
I love that. So I wonder if they gave her a script where he had an alternate ending where he talks to her, or something else happens, or if it's just she
I don't
just
think
had
so.
her lines.
I think maybe they just kept it completely. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just gave her sides and didn't worry about the rest. Yeah, that was. I think it was actually. he was working with Philip Kaufman was talking to the original director of the director of the first adaptation
Yeah,
of this movie.
1956 one.
Yeah, who is Don Siegel, who actually plays the taxi driver in this movie.
Oh, really?
But
Love that.
Don Siegel, he was talking to him about how it should end, and the guy who played I think it was Kevin McCarthy, who is the plays Miles Bennell in the 56 version. He runs up or he happens to walk in the room at this point, and he I think he suggested I think that's how they kind of they all sort of came up with it together, in that way.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. Well, we probably won't focus it on it too much, but since you have seen the 1956 version, I would be curious to hear about some of the differences.
It's not as like
Body horror, I'm assuming.
this one is I watched this and I don't know if it was what the mind state I was in, but I like the 56 one better.
Oh,
I
interesting.
feel like it's a simpler, sort of more straightforward story.
Mm.
This one feels like there's a lot of business to it. There's also this really cool thing in the 56 one where there's this framing device where the guy is telling the story. And there was this whole controversy that the studio felt like the ending was really hopeless.
Mm.
So they added this framing device to give it some hopefulness. And that's I thought that was an interesting aspect.
Someone
as well.
survived in the future to be able to tell the story kind of thing.
Yes, and that and it sort of implied that the authorities are gonna go and deal with it, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, there was a certain point, and I didn't remember how it ended, but there was a certain point in this movie. I'm like, I don't see how you turn this one around unless there's some big reveal, War of the Worlds or something like that.
yeah, I don't know. It's just there was a lot of business in this one. I liked it still. I had a good time watching it.
Can you define what you mean by business?
It's I mean I think in the original it's just very much the it's the unsettling thing of who has been turned, and this guy is realizing that it's slowly closing in on him. In this there's the four sort of central characters, and there's this psychiatrist, and there is I think there is some of the conspiracy stuff in the 50s. I haven't seen it for 8 years.
Right.
But but this one there is a lot of extra stuff, which I don't think I think is still interesting, but I like a simpler sort of take on it.
Yeah.
What was interesting is I also read that Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up, but they were like, why was this remade? And the interesting thing about that is that since then it has become consensus the best adaptation, people say. Also, this movie is considered one of the best remakes of all time,
Oh, wow.
because it has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and most remakes don't reach
Right.
those hallowed heights.
Interesting. Yeah. I thought this was obviously we're doing It Could Be Anyone, but this felt so perfect for that, throughout the movie, of just oh man, it could be anyone in any moment. I love the tension around that. And I just think it's really interesting, the context of when the book came out and the original movie came out. And the paranoia of the Red Scare is kind of what, I haven't looked this up, but that's kind
People talked about it being a metaphor for McCarthyism, but
Yeah.
people actually say 2 different things. People give it the more conservative read, which is that this is an allegory for the loss of individuality in Soviet the Soviet Union,
Interesting.
whereas there is the other sort of take, which is that it is a representation of all sort of political belief homogenizing in the U.S. during McCarthyism. Basically, people being scared of being called out for being communists if they didn't toe the company line or follow the status
Right.
quo.
Or just the paranoia and what happens to you in society when we stop trusting each other and all turn on each other. But in this case, they have pretty good reason for it. But it captures the horror of that well.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into it, I do want to say it is really cool that the guy who did the sound design for this, which is really, really well done, is Ben Burt, who is the guy from Star Wars.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, great score. I love all the weird synthy stuff. So I
There
wonder.
was some really cool like piano over synth stuff, which was really
Yeah,
fun because it is this combination of like the organic and the alien in a way.
yeah, totally.
Well, I guess like alien is organic, but like what we know versus like the intraterrestrial versus like the extraterrestrial. I also don't think it begins like this in the 56 one.
Oh yeah, trippy shot where they're on
Yeah.
like an alien planet.
It
It
definitely
seems
doesn't
like.
actually start like that. Yeah, it almost feels like the sound design is like they're all like crying out, like communicating.
Ugh.
All the like weird, hairy, fluffy, wispy jellyfish dudes.
Yeah,
But
I
like
wrote
again,
weird alien ghost
the
jellies.
sound design is really cool. It reminds me a little bit of like the sound of, this is gonna be the second time we mentioned this on this podcast, but of like the electric bus lines. Like there's something
Mm,
about that like almost like um ephemeral. I don't know. It seems like sort of ghastly, but it's sick.
yeah, yeah, very unsettling. I love the whole transition between the weird ghost jellies and then
They're
the
flying through space and they
flying
get
through
to Earth.
space, and then you just like the rain coming down on Earth, being like it's such good visual storytelling to just let you know like this like something's coming from above, right, visually, and now you actually are seeing it as it's like growing on the plants and stuff. I love that.
Yeah. I think what I heard Philip Kaufman say, the director, about why he made this is he was sort of trying to picture it in San Francisco, the city that he like loves, because it's set in like a random town in California in the book and
Oh, okay.
in the original film. So yeah, I mean like a fun aspect of it as well. You know, cities that we sort of think of as being like iconic, or and it like looks so beautiful, just like
Yeah.
right, all those establishing shots are super fun.
Yeah, I mean,
The Golden Gate Bridge, and I love the way that it's intercut with those shots of like those plants that are dripping wet, that would have been really well placed in Aquatic Month, but they're like dripping wet. But there's something so, I'm curious how they did some of this, because it just looks so unsettling the way that there's two different kinds of moisture. There's like this gelatinous clinging moisture and then
yeah.
like the regular rain. And I thought that was a really cool like sort of way of setting everything up. It's so unsettling.
Yeah, and we get those like sped up shots of it growing out. Like there's so many cool practical effects in this movie. I love so much. I think that's one of my favorite things about this movie.
Yeah, really good practical stuff like you said. Great visually as well. There's this like there's this very like the way that the colors all look too. I love it. Very, we've talked a lot about 70s and the 70s look, and this one definitely like check those boxes.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a 70s kick.
If you don't count the bonus episode, we're
Yeah.
three episodes deep.
Yeah, and loving it. It's been fun. Um right away, I think we get, is it Elizabeth sniffing the flower here? Which
Yes.
I didn't really remember what happened to the characters or how this was gonna go down, so I'm immediately like, oh well, she's like patient zero, I guess, right? Sniffing the flower.
Yeah, this I like, you can tell it's like a freaky pod, but I love how it's this freaky pod and you see this beautiful flower sprout out, which is like a really cool shot.
Yeah.
And then it is this like, that's how they get you, because like that pod looks freaky. Why would you touch that? It's like, oh, like attach something beautiful to it, and there's like the bait, you know.
Yeah. When she's walking away, there's such a weird shot here.
Of Robert Duvall dressed as a priest
Yes,
on the creaking swing.
yeah, and I was I was watching it last night, and the sound design of the creaking swing is so in your face.
It's really
It
obnoxious.
scared the crap out of my cats.
I was like, this is so annoying. This is like makes it way too high,
It's
and it goes
really
for on
grating.
for way too long.
Yeah.
So
So that was an Exorcist reference? Like,
Robert Duvall is in a, I don't know.
interesting. I don't know.
I think, well, I have a note here from the trivia section of IMDb. So I said that weird. IMDb. He had worked. Robert Duvall had worked with Philip Kaufman on the Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid, which is a movie from 1972. He was in San Francisco at the time of the filming and shot this scene for free. He was apparently paid with an Eddie Bauer jacket. Apparently, He plays a crazy priest playing on a swing. It's supposed to foreshadow the pod person enemy and alienation we feel later in the movie. So I think it's just supposed to be unsettling.
Interesting. I mean, it's definitely unsettling. It's just so random, but interesting. Cool. Um, Next note I have is that Jeffrey's gonna be after your heart here, watching some basketball.
Yeah, he does suck though. He
He
does
does
suck.
suck, yeah.
But and we're using a lot of like let's make this guy a huge slob. So the next day we see him, like we really see how much he's changed, right? How he's not the same person. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, watching some basketball, that's a big that's not a big part, but it is a part of this throughout, is that like the Warriors are playing in the playoffs, which I thought was, yeah, I mean it's a fun little thing. But yeah, like very very cool the way that they just make it so like obvious, like this guy's a slob. He's like got the headphones on. And he's like,
Well,
you
yeah, they're
know.
like making out, and then he like does the classic, like, wait, hold on, I gotta see what the score is. Just kind of, neglecting her.
Sports are important.
Yeah, sure. Um, oh, really quick, we didn't go over the themes. I have 5 themes for Could Be Anyone, and I think all 5 of these fit pretty well with this one. We got paranoia, isolation, trust, the anomaly that is man, and a mental chess match. Like mental chess match, maybe less so. There's definitely some kind of chess matches going on between our heroes and the pod people. I do love how it kind of showcases, as dark of a movie as it is, it showcases some of the best qualities of humanity, especially through like Matthew and his kind of rebellious, not going down without a fight mentality, which I really appreciated. Like, it doesn't feel all hopeless because Matthew is a badass, even though it is hopeless.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really feel. I just felt like putting off the inevitable the whole time to me. Like I didn't really feel like. I think he has this like sort of like belief that I think is the cool how it contrasts with other characters at different points in time. But I didn't really like. I wasn't like, oh, he's gonna figure it out. Like I was like, dude, you're fucked.
Yeah, I guess I think that's what I like about it, is because I think at a certain point he knew he was kind of fucked. Like by the end of the movie, like he's kind of lost everything, but he's still fighting. He's going to destroy what he can. He's going to put up the good fight, and I respect that. He's committed. What do they call it when so?
It's a Grex.
Yeah. The two species creating a third. I thought that was a great little concept. Seems like it's just like really good classic science fiction stuff, right? Where they're taking these real concepts and then making it horrifying and alien.
Yeah, there's a really cool little line here where he says, "Oh, is it dangerous?" And she says, "In the garden, you know."
Yeah, that stood out to me too. Because we are the garden. Oh yeah, and that whole conversation's great too, where it's the camera work here.
You don't see them while they're talking. It's like,
yeah. Well, at first it's just Jeffrey, and then you kind of see her, like her feet are in the frame, but you see just like the reflection, and then it's like, yeah, this slow push in on the door frame, and then Jeffrey goes into the reflection of the window, so you're looking through the door frame through the reflection. It's pretty cool.
yeah, there's a lot of shots of people through like windows.
Yeah.
Like there's an awesome shot later on of Matthew walking through Chinatown to go to the dry cleaner. And it's like this really cool shot through like a window that I thought looked really awesome.
Yeah, there's a couple times that happens. I remember they're at the Department of Health a couple times, and they're passing by windows, and it's just like their shadows in front of the windows and stuff. Yeah.
And that was a very specific choice that was made
100%.
to sort of communicate the like distrust that's mounting throughout.
Yeah, 100%. Oh yeah, I love the first shot we get of Matthew.
Yeah, it's through the little peephole.
Yeah, that's great.
I love the way that sort of like distorts people's like physique. And this is where we get the whole thing. You know, he works for the Department of Health.
He's all business,
which is an interesting thing too. That he's like part of the Department of Health, trying to like keep the city healthy, and this does end up being like an epidemic. And I do love that he sort of treats it as such, where he I mean later on they're talking about it. He's like, we gotta treat it like Legionnaire's disease or like these other sort of like epidemics, right? We get the whole sort of like Henri, the who seems to be the maitre d, versus fucking Matthew, who have we mentioned played by Donald Sutherland, with a perm in this movie.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like he doesn't have curly hair, but there was a choice for the character to have curly hair. Very interesting. But the Caper v Rat Turd, it's a fun little back and forth. And then I love the way he ultimately is like, well, if it's a caper, then eat it. As a restaurant worker, I immediately am kind of like, fuck this guy.
I had a feeling you would be.
Yeah, there's just this like, whatever. And I think
I mean, someone's got to keep the rat turds out of the soup, right?
yeah, I understand that absolutely. I think that the way he's set up in the movie, I don't think you're necessarily supposed to like be like, wow, what a hero protecting the city from rat turds.
He comes off very cold and kind of unempathetic towards them.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of where I was kind of surprised by that. Like, as for setting up a protagonist, he does come across as kind of just like unlikable. Not. I mean, he slowly becomes likable. Like, I do like his character. But yeah, interesting. I also just think it's a really interesting choice for a lot of these professions. Like, it's such a Motley Crue gang that they kind of get together. Like, we have an author, a mud shop or a mud bath owner, a Department of Health, and then a psychiatrist. And sometimes I found myself wondering like why is Matthew the one that they're first going to with this? Why is the psychiatrist's opinion on this so important? Why do they need to convince him so much? Like, there's a lot of stuff like that was a little confusing to me. Like, it's almost like they're treating them like they're police agents, or because when I think of a Department of Health agent who's going to review if a restaurant's up to code, I don't think of like a scientist who specializes in pathological diseases and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, them taking all of those. Yeah, that was kind of wild. Like they have this whole lab set up.
Yeah,
but it is the Department of Health. Like, I feel like
I just
kind of makes sense, but it didn't. Like, I was like, is this what it's? It's also like they're testing things for salmonella, and I'm like, isn't like some of these things like the amount of time passing, you're not really going to be able to get a good read? This seems like some of this is like bad science.
Yeah, you would like I could see that there would be scientists and kind of the agents in the same department. It's just weird that they're like one and the same kind of. But maybe that happens sometimes. It was the 70s, baby.
Yeah, I do want to say in the 78 playoffs, by the way, I think that the Sonics ultimately went to the finals there.
Hell yeah, represent.
That was the year before they won. They won 1979.
Oh wow.
This is gonna date the episode, but the Pacers just made it through to the NBA Finals, and they're going to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just want everybody to know, if the Oklahoma City Thunder win, that is their first championship, not their second, because basketball is coming back to Seattle. I believe that strongly.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna say it on this podcast. I will drop the yellow and purple of my beloved LA Lakers, not really, but a little bit, to don the green and yellow of the fucking Sonics.
Hell yeah, brother.
Leave that in, double it.
so he goes out to his car. The window's been smashed.
Yeah, they threw a bottle of wine at it.
I love what he says later. It wasn't even good wine. He's like offended by that. If you're gonna break my window, at least use a good bottle. Oh yes, so I love zombie movies or zombie stories. I'm actually rereading the Walking Dead comics right now, and they're great. But like, I love this trope of slowly seeing like society around you change before the heroes really know what's happening.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of that kind of background ambiance of like a lot of police sirens.
It's also like very quiet except for the police sirens.
Yeah.
And we have the dogs that are barking in the background. I don't know when it starts, but it like carries throughout. And I had the realization that's like, these are probably dogs whose like owners have like turned and no longer are caring for them. Like, and not only are no longer caring for them, but like, dogs like can probably smell that it's like a different person, right? And I was just a little bit sad thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, some weird dog shit in this movie.
Yeah, dude, the man dog face, that doesn't happen in a 1956 movie. That's insane. That is wild. That is so
that
fucking
freaked
freaky.
me out. Yeah,
Dude,
there's a couple jaw-dropping moments for me in this movie.
that guy Harry, the character Harry,
the banjo player.
yeah, the song is actually done by Jerry Garcia.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's playing like a Grateful Dead song.
Oh, cool. Wow, love that.
Yeah, that's so San Francisco.
For real. Matthew calls Elizabeth. I think he's just basically asking her to come in and test some stuff tomorrow.
He's trying to convince her to run a salmonella test for
Right.
him. I love the way that these two characters sort of like connect in that way. That was kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I just kept noting there's so much like great silence, like almost like absolute silence.
Yeah.
That is, like, there was one point actually when I was watching this movie that I thought my headphones had gone out, and I was like, what's going on? And then it was just like, it was so dead fucking quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while they're going to sleep, this is one of those awesome, like, you have this like light piano with this like synth pad that's underneath. It's like so unsettling.
And this is when it's like zooming in on the glass on the nightstand.
Yeah.
And there's this blue light on it. Yeah, that part's really good. Also, just want to note really quick, when they hang up the phone call, it's so interesting to see this where they have the phone cord going through the wall, which is just like weird to me, growing up in the modern era. But also it's just like, I was wondering what that shot meant, because they really linger on the cord slowly being pulled back into the wall. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it's creepy and eerie. And maybe they just thought it was a tense thing to show.
Yeah, I feel like it is tense. Also, I think it's maybe the last time everything settles into its rightful place.
Oh, that's a good take. I love that.
And after that, everything is completely different, you know?
Yeah.
The whole city of San Francisco is overrun by pod people.
Yeah, and I was actually a bit confused on how this all worked, and I'm still a bit confused on how it all works. It seems like what happens is they get infected, and then like a duplicate thing starts being made of them, and then when they sleep, they just die. I'm a little confused on the logistics of how any of this is actually happening.
Sounds like you've got it down, dude.
I guess. So,
I mean, that's what we see in the movie.
yeah, I'm just confused because when she wakes up and it's the other Jeffrey now, the other one just like kind of withered away, and then the new one cleaned up his like remains. Oh, right, he's throwing out the trash in the morning. So that's him throwing out what was left of the old Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Ew, that's so disturbing. Yeah, because there is a lot of scenes of
There's
garbage
a lot
trucks.
of the garbage trucks,
Yeah.
and they have these like gray, like dry hairs, right? That I guess
Yeah.
are like the like dried out remains. Yeah, it's interesting. There is almost this like weird, like, because it would make sense if like the plant, like when it's happening to Matthew later on, and he's right next to it. It like makes sense, right? Because it's like touching him, and you
Yeah.
can see like, oh, it's like you think, oh, it's drawing the moisture from him.
Yeah.
But before that, when we see it happening to Elizabeth, when we see it happening to Jack, like they're far away from it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's in their body.
how is the moisture being drawn out of their body
Yeah.
into the other thing, right? Yeah, I mean, doesn't super duper make sense.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing to me. I didn't fully understand that sleep is what would kill them immediately until Elizabeth withered away at the end, which means I should have picked it up sooner, because they kept saying like we can't fall asleep, but I thought they just meant because we'd be in too much danger, that's when they're going to get us and stuff, but I didn't realize like, oh no, now that they're infected, that means they're doomed if they sleep.
Yeah, I feel like the movie sets it up for you to know that with Jack earlier on.
Yeah.
In like the mud baths.
Right. For sure. Yeah, because I was confused. I was like, why is everyone's face peeling and stuff? So like, I don't know. It was trippy, but it makes sense in hindsight.
Yeah, the logic is when they go to sleep is when, and it is like this thing of like the duplicate and the original can't both be like fully conscious at the same time, which is also wild. Like I don't really fully grasp that either.
Yeah, well, at first I was thinking maybe there's some kind of telepathy happening, like some kind of hive mind thing happening between them, but it's pretty clear that they're not connected hive mind wise, because there's a couple times where the others don't know what's happening when something is happening to one of them. But it is a little confusing how they're able to coordinate so well, but it doesn't really matter. I mean,
Dude, they got megaphones.
yeah, that'll do it. Um,
They got all the megaphones, dude. Later on, all the megaphones.
um, yeah, very clearly it's set up. I think we see Elizabeth and Matthew at the office, and you can tell Matthew's kind of into her.
Wait.
Yeah,
Whoa,
go
whoa,
ahead.
whoa. Before this, you see him just acting completely different. He's like wearing a suit, and
Yeah.
he's like cleaning up the broken glass, which I think is the broken glass is the pod, right? Like growing and bursting through the glass, which is insane that an entire person was grown next to her and she didn't wake up during the night at all. But hey, whatever, it's the 70s. They're probably on drugs. And that's like we said, there's the first shot of the garbage truck is Jeffrey getting rid of the remains.
Yeah, we get a classic alarm jump scare here. So, people are always complaining, like, oh, horror movies are nothing but jump scares now. It's like, hey, they were still using some of those tricks back then, too.
Yeah, for sure, it's a classic.
Yeah.
And that's when we also get introduced to Harry on the banjo for the
Yep.
first time.
Yeah, walking to work. I like that whole sequence. But yes, then after that, they're at the office, and it's very clear Matthew is pretty jealous of Jeffrey. He's, she's talking about how he's changed a lot, and he's saying, well, it could be, it could only be for the better, right? Because he's basically calling him a piece of crap, which he kind of is from what we saw. So
It also feels like she complains about him
a lot.
to him, right?
Yeah.
To me, honestly, it felt like there's a weird unspoken part of this that she's having an affair already. I mean, she's emotionally cheating at this point. Like their relationship is like she knows that he likes her. Like, and it feels like they definitely like each other. But yeah, that was very interesting. And like,
That's an interesting. Yeah, I didn't really take it that way, but like the idea of emotional cheating is very interesting in general.
the way
yeah.
he's like very forward
Yeah,
to,
they're
the point where I'm like, these people
They're flirting hard, yeah.
these
for sure.
people are
good point.
like these people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I honestly was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd have already like gone on dates and stuff together.
Right. Yeah.
Especially I mean, he's like doesn't really seem to like pay attention to her, watching sports like a man. Like, who's gonna take her out to dinner, her old work buddy. The whole thing with the scallop and the potato, that seemed silly. Again, like the whole science of the lab, I'm like, some of this shit seems kind of like sketch. Like, it's not really like, I mean, it doesn't have to be accurate, but then I'm like, I don't know.
If you're gonna do the science stuff. Do
Yeah.
the science stuff. Yeah.
He doesn't have to work for the health department.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I like the angle, but I'm not sure I'm totally sold on all the ways they executed it.
Also, I love that Jeffrey he's a dentist.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, he's just casually a dentist.
Yeah. We also get this one shot here that's it's supposed to be kind of suspenseful, but to me it was kind of just weird where she bumps into a guy in the hallway, and it's like a long shot of them walking away from each other and then both looking back. It's kind of setting up the suspicion and like what is going on, but
I felt like, and then everybody else is staring at her.
and
And then I was like, "Ooh, are all these people pod people already?"
Yeah, there's so much just people staring
Yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah, and I feel like the implication becomes more and more like these are people who have already turned.
Yeah.
Did want to say another part of it that made me feel like she was already kind of like, oh, I'm done with Jeffrey, is like he goes, kick him out or something like that. And she goes, well, he like owns the house. And she's like, but he like makes too much money. And it's like, she's not saying like, oh, I love him, right? Like all of her like reasoning for why she stays with him is very like material, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But again, it feels like the line has already been crossed. Like, I'm like done with him.
Yeah, which is interesting because it does seem like she loves him and is like really worried about him and stuff. But yeah, I guess you can hold both
I
of those things.
I also think it's so disturbing what has happened that like to me it read almost more like I know this person really well and like something fucked up is happening because this is
Right.
not the same person.
Right. It's almost more horror at the circumstances than, oh no, the person I love,
Yeah,
something is going
absolutely,
on. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Which
Um,
again, lots of business.
a lot of business.
A lot of business.
There's a lot going on for sure. Jeffrey is going to all these meetings. She Oh, yes. No, so he's about to go to the meetings, and then we see that she sees something on the back of his neck here.
So it starts with, again, basketball. He's supposed to go to the Warriors game that night, and she's like, "You're not going to go to the game?" And he's like, "Nope, I gave my tickets away to a patient." And she's like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, this is clearly a pod person.
Yeah, that's fucking insane. Well, dude, that's wild.
Yeah, no, it is wild.
That's so wild. For anyone to be a fan of something and be like, "Nope, not doing that." You're like, "Are you going to kill yourself? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And then she leans in and she notices something, but we don't know what it is until later on.
Yeah, I like that because it left a big hanging question because I was like, did I miss something? Like, what'd she see there? Yeah.
And that is in the book. In the book, it is that like when they sort of like replicate, they sorry, actually no, they do have the same scars supposedly. Typically, I thought that was a thing that they didn't, but yeah, I don't. So very interesting. Because then later on, the lady's also like, "Oh yeah, he has the same scars."
Well, I think it's where the tube is connected, right?
Oh, like he has a new scar.
Yeah, I think it's like supposed to be like where the umbilical cord of the plant was.
Ah.
And so I guess it heals over because they look again and it's gone, I think.
Yeah, cause she was like, but she seems to imply that he had a scar that's gone.
I think that's just from her seeing it that morning because she said she saw it and then she looked again and it was gone. And then the lady at the shop also said there was a scar on the back of her neck on her husband's neck, which is what perks her ear up and is like, oh, she saw the same thing I did.
Word. Yeah, I was like, I just kind of like was like, oh, I kind of like dismissed that. I was like, as like, oh, it's just like some sort of visual cue for them to know that something is different. But I was like, but when I like dove into it, I was like, what exactly is going on? I don't feel like the specifics are really like given to you.
For sure. Yeah, and so pretty soon after this, she's talking to Matthew.
I like the way that this is set up, like that they show her having this interaction and like being freaked out, and then we just get like Matthew like chopping vegetables.
Oh yeah, she
like,
comes
he's
over
like
for dinner, right?
cooking in like a wok, and she shows up. Oh, sorry, no, I was getting ahead of myself. I think this is just like her going over there, and she's like clearly freaked out. What I was thinking of is like later on when they do when she like shows up and she's like so freaked out and like she tells like the whole story of her like following him in retrospect. Really love the way that was done. That was like a fun sort of flashback.
Yeah. I like that too.
But I think it's so fucking funny. He's cooking in the wok. He's got the big ass knife. It is just was such a choice.
Yeah.
Cooking in a wok is hard, dude. Like it's like he's such like a specific person.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're eating, with chopsticks after this and everything. Yeah, they're setting up a vibe. They're setting up that they kind of have these kind of like meal nights or hangout nights. I love his backyard. The view of San Francisco is so sick. It keeps coming back up throughout the movie.
Yeah. Again, he feeds her with the chopsticks. That's kind of intimate.
Yeah.
She doesn't really she like barely hesitates. Like.
Yeah. No, you're right. They're definitely setting up that they're kind of like she's emotionally moved on from Jeffrey a bit, and that he's really into her and she's kind of into him. But, yeah.
No buts about it.
Yeah, it will. But I also get the sense that they like you were saying, you wouldn't be surprised if they've already hooked up. I get the sense that this is still been platonic up until this point, but who's to say?
I don't think you can call the way they hang out platonic.
Sure. I mean, yeah. It's brushing up against that line, yeah. I mean, it's something very real, right? It's something I've seen before quite a few times of just people who...
Yeah, for sure. Totally. I feel like it is very, very real, but it's not platonic. Like, that's the whole point of it. That's what's interesting about it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Just...
Again, a lot of business.
A lot of business, yeah. Not as much business as Sinners, probably, but a lot of business.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A lot of the business in Sinners, I'm like, okay, yeah. I see why you're doing the business. I wish you had like took more time with the specific points of business that I like the most, but like that's fun, right?
Yeah.
With some of these things, I'm like, why is this going
Yeah.
on? Like, it's not as easy to defeat it with fun because I'm just like, that's not fun.
Yeah,
That's just weird.
I'm with you. I that's probably my biggest criticism of the movie overall. Is
It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to explore, but it's not really explored.
I think there's a lot of really good tense stuff. I'm a big fan of slow burns, but I feel like it was a bit too slow of a burn sometimes, where we're just too focused on, like you said, just kind of side stuff. And I'm like, this isn't uninteresting, but I want a little bit more momentum in the plot. And sometimes it felt like it really kind of just like slowed down a lot for
I
character
think a
stuff.
lot of 70s movies just have a lot of these like they have these like hangs, you know? Like they have these like we're just like existing, you know? Like
and I'm a fan of that. I think I like that a lot in the first act, but by the time we get to the second act, like I want some more momentum.
it depends on the film, it depends on the context,
For
it
sure.
depends on so many things. I love that sort of like vibe. I wonder if it is like this. I wonder if it was even really people thinking about it. It almost feels like this very like because look, I'm telling you the 50s version is like 80 minutes, and a lot of like movies from those times were like shorter, and it feels like in the 70s maybe we like I don't know, maybe it's like the countercultural movement. There's a change in sort of philosophy as to like what role art should like fulfill in society.
Yeah.
And it's like, what man, just come to the movie and hang out for a second, you know? Smoke a doobie, just hang out, like eat your popcorn, you know? Get out of the summer sun, man.
Yeah, that is the vibe, for sure. Yeah, it's
But like be horrified the
it's-
whole time.
It's like a hangout. It's like a hangout horror movie in some sections.
There's a lot of hanging out in this movie.
Yeah, a bit too much, but I still enjoyed it.
That one chubby dude, he's hanging out with his wang out, dude.
Oh yeah, this is where we also get he's
David Kibner, yes.
he's saying she should go see the psychiatrist, and we get
He fucking loves this guy.
yeah. Well, that's what I was mentioning earlier. It's like, why do they care so much about what Kibner has to say about this?
He
Like,
fucking loves
so much
this
of the
guy.
movie is them trying to convince Kibner of what's happening, and I'm like, who gives a fuck what Kibner thinks? You guys all saw this shit.
Yeah, fuck this guy. This guy kind of sucks. Like, I think.
Well, he's a pod person, so he especially sucks.
Hey man, you know, like, I'm not gonna judge them. They're like their whole deal is different than ours.
Yeah,
whatever.
survival's important. I get it.
Yeah. But like,
Their
also,
whole deal.
what's really interesting too about the pod people is like. In the book, they only like do the duplicate only lives for 5 years and can't reproduce sexually. So what these
Oh.
things do is they leave dead planets in their wake. Like they consume all the
That's why
resources.
they left a dead planet. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but it's only like hinted at.
Oh.
But me having known what I did, I was like, yeah, that's like this is a very false promise. Like they're just gonna use the resources. And that's why you would think there's some sort of like hive mindish part to it,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's like a low grade hive mind, but it does feel like there is this thing where like they're willing to just spread the pod people for the sake of spreading the pod people.
Yeah, it almost feels like there's like a hive mind aspect that goes one way, where you can't communicate. Like there's something from at the very top.
There's no
or
feedback.
something.
There's
Yeah.
just the like. There's just like a megaphone.
Yeah, it's like,
Dude.
it's the megaphone, man.
I mean, okay, so picture you have a phone, but it's mega.
Yeah, because they do seem to work together unspokenly a lot of the times, but yeah, they can't seem to communicate in important moments, telepathically wise. Oh yeah, and her crazy eyes here. that's so out of nowhere, but I was just like,
If
okay.
you can do that thing with your eyes, you're not crazy. What the fuck?
It felt like something the actor had just like showed them at one point, and they're like, "Hey, let's do that in the movie."
Yep, just throw her in there. Why not?
Yeah, we get the setup of the dry cleaning here. The wife is sick. She's wrong. The guy assumes Matthew's a doctor for some reason, and then starts trying to get medical
You're a
advice
doctor,
from him.
right? Yeah. Fucking funny.
Um,
I love the way he's like, no, she's changed. She's different. I like that aspect of it as well, where it's like we really get to know like someone, like you get to know someone so well. Um, I this is a very personal thing, but I feel like one of the things I can like relate to that a little bit. I have had a close relationship with different people, but with one specifically I'm thinking about. And like as people like sort of like when people sort of succumb to like certain types of mental illness, like you really see like a shift in their personality, and it is so wild to like watch someone and just be like you're not like the same
Yeah.
person. And I think that's one of the really cool like compelling parts of it that's like very heavily implied but not really like dug into like super deeply because it is like such a jarring thing. But that aspect of it is just like so chilling, and I love the way that it is like a lot of like husband wife things, right, where it's like this guy's like, no, I know my wife, I know her, like, we've been married for 30 fucking years. That is not my fucking wife.
Yeah. Why are you telling this random dude
So
though?
unsettling. So unsettling.
Hey,
What?
you're a doctor.
He's not a random dude. He's one of their like customers. He's a regular. They know each other.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's just so,
He frequents their dry cleaning establishment.
yeah. Yeah.
I love the whole thing too, where he's like, "It's a coffee stain." She's like, "That's not coffee." He's like, "No, it is. I did it myself."
Yeah. Which I was like, I was trying to figure out what that meant. Like, why did
It's
she?
poop.
Why?
He doesn't want to say he's got a poop stain on his shirt.
Why is the pod person calling out his coffee stain too? I don't know. Kind of weird.
It was a fun exchange.
Yeah.
I like that she's like, "Nope," and he's like, "Yep."
Um. Yeah, we get another moment with Matthew coming over to Harry, Banjo Man.
Well, like the way this scene sort of ends is we see the woman staring at him through the plastic curtain.
Yeah, which is very creepy. Yeah, she's very suspect, very unnerving.
She's a pod person for sure.
Yeah, one hundo. And then I think this is when Elizabeth comes.
Yeah, Elizabeth freaks out.
She's crying.
Okay, and there's like no one in the health department,
Yeah.
which is like again that whole I love like what you were saying about
The external stuff kind of like coming up around in the environment.
yeah, what you were saying about the slow degradation of society like around the actors and it not being sort of like like
Emphasized.
there's no attention
Yeah.
like pulled to it. You just have to like sort of notice.
Yeah.
Love that aspect of this, right? This empty hallway and the dude just like buffing the floor,
Yeah,
just like
the
watching
janitor,
them.
so
And you're
unsettling.
like, that guy's a pod person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then
Wait. You're a fucking pod person.
you're a pod person.
I'm a podcasting person.
Ah, damn, we should have done something like that for the intro.
That's okay.
And so yeah, this is where we get her cool flashback because she's like, people are recognizing each other, which is just such a good setup for like, I love the conspiracy aspect of this movie and just like, yeah, that slow burn of like her like noticing that all these people that shouldn't recognize each other, like all these strangers seem to know each other and stuff. I think that's a very creepy, good setup.
It's too bad that. Well, I think it's smart that it's like, okay, like this movie, people know the story because it's a remake. So like, let's just like not try to like be coy. But it's too bad it doesn't try to be coy. Because imagine watching this movie with no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
There's no intro with the plant,
Yeah.
like with the like
Oh, that is a good
with
point.
the word, and it's just like all these people, and I feel like that's a little bit more like what the 56 one
Yeah,
is.
where
Like,
you just kind of things just start happening and you're horrified.
and that was my first introduction to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like I didn't even really know how the concept worked. I didn't know that they were like grown separately. I thought like you're even like, oh, is it like taking up the body? Like, and I kind of love. That's one of the things where like I really feel like your sort of like philosophy on spoilers really comes in, where I'm like, man, I wish like, but that's also a great idea for a fucking movie. Like make a body snatcher movie and like don't tell people it's a body snatcher movie until like
Halfway through,
yeah.
like Sinners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a body snatcher movie in a
Yeah,
way.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But they inherit each other's memories too. Not the pod people. I would way rather be a vampire in Sinners than a pod person.
Oh yeah. I mean the vampires and sinners are having fun.
Yeah, they fuck.
They fuck.
Yeah, they fuck.
Yeah. They like music and stuff.
And they're hot.
Yeah, they're hot. The pod people, not fun. They don't have fun.
No. They seem lame.
They're pretty boring, yeah.
Yeah. They have this fascist rigidity about them that I do not respect.
Yeah. It is very creepy though, just how emotionless and how much you just like, yeah, the sense of what life is when you don't have all the humanity behind it. That's one of my themes is the anomaly that is man, and I think the pod people really emphasize humanity in a interesting way that I like.
Yeah. There's during the flashback there's a lot of really great camera work. There's all these great anxious shots of Elizabeth walking around.
A lot of Dutch angles in this movie.
Yeah, there's some good tilting, some good off-axis work. And she's talking about like how the city has changed overnight. And I love all the different shots because we had these such like very sort of like we're on sticks. We're very much like a like static shot of like different parts of the city at the very beginning, and now we're getting all these frantic like sort of like jostly sort of like angles and her like moving around. And I think there's a lot of shots of people like sort of like through things, like obscured by things.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. And then Matthew starts to tell this joke about so the sort of camel.
Yeah, this was such a weird setup. Like,
yeah.
You already told me that joke before.
Yeah.
Oh, can I tell you again?
Yeah.
And then crash into a person, or he like jumps onto their car.
Yes. The guy who starts yelling, they're here, they're coming, they're here, you're next. That is the lead from the original movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
I think Kevin McCarthy is his name.
Great setup. Very creepy. I love the way that he just kind of runs off, and they're like, "Oh, the cop will take care of it." And then they come over, and his body's dead, and the cop is just like waving everyone by without like any. Oh, very unsettling.
Yeah, you can tell
stuff.
something is fucking wrong, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's so fucking weird.
Yeah. And really quick, I just want to point out the music during the flashback sequence is so cool. It's just like this synthy pulse. Like it's just this very, I mean, super 70s, but like very effective, I thought. And then we get Jeff Goldblum showing up.
Yeah, he's so fucking young. It's wild.
Yeah, it is.
Love
really
how the first thing he says is Kibner's book is garbage, and I'm like, sick, dude. Fuck yeah, I like this guy.
He's
gutsy.
He's so funny, man. What a strange character. Yeah, it's such a. I like the choice to have such big personalities in the movie, but I'm also like you were saying, it's almost a little too much business. Where I'm like,
lots of business.
What is the purpose of this guy's character being so eccentric? Other than just it's interesting, I guess. He's not boring. I guess that's why they made him so weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have my next note is that they call the police.
Matthew is calling in the incident, like he said he was going to. He's calling in,
yeah, that's
reporting that there's this body, this checking in to see what sort of report was filed, and ultimately he finds out that there's no incident.
And this is like a book signing, right? For
yes,
Kibner.
it's
yeah,
Kibner's new book. There's this woman talking about how her husband is not the same. Elizabeth is immediately like, "This is so interesting because it's like what I'm going through right now." And Dr. Kibner, so weird, touchy-feely, grabbing this lady. I don't fucking like this shit. It's like holding both their hands, and I immediately just felt like charlatan. Like, this guy's a fucking charlatan.
Yeah, do you think it's...
I don't think that's the intention.
Well, I'm wondering, do you think he's a pod person from the start, or does it happen somewhere in the middle?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of like that, right? You don't need to know.
No, I don't think it's important.
I think we get too much at Kibner, to be honest, because I just think, like I said earlier, like I don't understand why he's so essential to the character motivations and stuff.
I like Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, me too.
He's a good actor, but yeah, I have no fucking idea why there's so much Kibner business in this. Like just for them to, like, I almost feel like you just bring him in here, all right. Like, and then there's the phone call later. Like, you just have them, like, if you want to have the betrayal, you can have the betrayal, but don't have to have him in the movie this fucking much. Like, there's this whole long conversation that they have outside, where Dr. Kibner's like, oh, this felt very like of the time, like where it's like, oh, people are just like getting like divorced or like, you know, going in and out of relationships so easily.
Right.
Like, why don't you just like give it a chance? Like, what the fuck is going on? What is all this like fucking like family values fucking bullshit in the middle of this like horror movie? I like, it's such a strange angle that he's like coming from. I like,
Yeah.
it makes him me. Is it supposed to make him like us be on his side? I mean, is he supposed to be like even more reasonable than like Matthew? That's not necessary. Matthew's already like the skeptic.
Yeah.
What role does he fulfill other than to like betray them later on?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying.
And
it's
like,
just so much around him without serving much function, I felt like.
Does the betrayal even really feel like, oh no, not Dr. Kim? No, it doesn't feel like that. It's like, oh, cool, this guy who was a douchebag is a pod person.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it's still like it's an effective twist, I would say, but it's like, yeah, too much business on him. Yeah.
I mean, I would say it just hits the threshold for me to be like effective twist.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, well, yeah. Again, it's just the fixation on why they need his validation so much that really like confuses me. I don't understand that angle.
Yeah, Matthew's like in love with him.
Yeah.
And
Well, all of them are like, no, we have to make sure that he agrees with us about this, and I'm like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah, I have no idea. I did have a note when he's talking to Elizabeth, when Dr. Kibner's talking to Elizabeth. I said, this is the Gaslight Express. He's just like, no, the stuff you're feeling, no, that's not right. Like, you just need to like stay in this unhappy like relationship and like figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, and he has so much conviction around this too. Like he talks about it like, and yeah, there's that part where Jack walks up on them and he like grabs Jack and like yells at him.
Just to make a point, like just to try and
then
like,
he turns around, he's like, did that startle you? Did that bring emotion out of you? See, the thing about emotion, I'm like, shut up, dude.
it's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
It's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I do I did like the phrase, it's like a hallucin. Well, he says, I've only given her a psychological band-aid. That was fucking dumb as well. But then he says there's like a hallucinatory flu going around.
Oh, yeah, I did write that down too.
I like that question.
I like that too.
And then what fucking Matthew asks, is it contagious? And they both like sort of like laugh. But then Matthew's kind of like, no, I'm serious. Like, is this like a health like issue? And then, you know, actually, so you're asking, is he already a pod person? And I think the answer is maybe yes, because the last shot of him is next to a dumpster full of like that like sort of like weird gray hair shit.
The part of the reason I question it is that he seems to have quite a bit, like he's a much better actor than the other pod people, I guess, right? Like compared to Jeffrey, who doesn't have an ounce of emotion or humor or like, you know, like it's hard for me to imagine Jeffrey doing the thing where he grabs Jack to yell at him to prove a point. Like that feels more like a human thing to do, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
even if it's weird, but like because it's so weird, I'm like, it's so full of pompous and arrogance. I'm like, oh, this seems like a real person versus a.
And he does even once we realize he's a pod person, though.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, maybe it's just like a little inconsistent, I guess. With
it's a movie thing, you know.
Yeah, and he mentions that he's seen this is like the 6th story I believe he's heard this week about this, and I like the angle I do like about him is, yes, it is gaslighting, but I think it's an interesting type of gaslighting where I could totally see society for a very long time trying to justify something like this happen. Like people would be very hard pressed to believe something more than this. So I like the angle of someone who is more scientific and logical, coming up with every other excuse they can to make this make sense to them.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely. You come to me, you say, this man who looks and speaks and is an exact replica of my husband or of my wife or my significant other, that's not them. Yeah, I think you're crazy. I absolutely think you're crazy. And that is a fun angle to like roll with, right?
Yeah.
Like, but could be so much better executed, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Like the whole like hero worship of him is also just like weird. Like, oh, well, he knows the mayor. All these like they mention him to people, and he's just like a celebrity.
Well, that angle at least makes sense why they do want his help more, right? He has these connections and stuff.
Like, yeah,
That's the one angle I can see
At
why
the very
they're
end, when
trying to
he's like, "Oh,
persuade
he
him.
knows the mayor," I was like, "Oh, okay," but like, there's almost something more compelling or fun about them bursting into like a random, or like not bursting, but like, I don't know, like it doesn't have to. I don't know. There's so many different ways you could do that, but
For sure. I also noted during the bookstore scene, you have everyone staring again, and everyone's lit from below. That's a trick this movie uses a lot. The classic horror lighting, where like the light is coming from beneath and it's casting shadows on everyone's faces in creepy ways. They use that a lot in this. Thought it was effective. Next we have Jack going to the, what would you call this, mud spa?
yeah, it's a business that him and his wife seem to own, that she seems to run. Like it seems to be kind of like, I don't know. She seems to be very good at it.
I like Nancy a lot. Yeah,
Nancy's great. Nancy's
she's like
one of
might
my
be my favorite.
characters,
Yeah, because she's the one who survives this the best.
But
you know?
Nancy's also insane. Like with the like shit she says later on, where she's like she's talking about she's like, this is just like when the spacemen came down and had sex with the apes to create humanity.
Oh yeah, I think I was writing something while she was saying that, and I just kind of looked up like, wait, what? Excuse me?
There's a point where she shows back up again, and she's like, "Oh, where's Jack and stuff?" And I'm like, I love how like they're like the pod people are scary, but Nancy's also kind of scary because she's kind of like seems like she's going in like absolutely nuts.
Yeah, the way she adapts to it, like subtly and with just kind of visual storytelling, and the way that she portrays herself, I think is really, really well done. Like you see that she is a survivor, without the movie having to tell you she's a survivor. You know, you just see how she adapts so quickly to the situation. To the point where you're like, is she a pod person? Because she's kind of like, you know, she's sketching me out.
Yeah. You know, actually, she was in Veronica Cartwright. This actor, she was in The Birds. Isn't that wild?
Oh yeah, great movie.
Wow, Connor with a hot take. Birds, good movie.
Mr. Gianni is very creepy.
Yeah, obviously he's a pod person, right?
Yeah.
I like them talking about the books. That was fun. They're talking about these like, they seem to be like weird, like sort of like science fiction books or something.
Yeah.
Which again, I think is just pointing to the genre, sort of like little like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, and like you're saying with all these kind of all the business, yeah, I find Jack's character like I think Kibner is definitely the weirdest kind of character in the movie, but I think Jack's, like I was saying earlier, Jack is so neurotic and strange, and it's like, what does his whole jealousy and writing career with Kib, like how does that tie into anything else? It doesn't really. Like I feel like he's just kind of like,
it's almost like this extreme character to then when he like, when we see him as a pod person for like literally 2 minutes later on, you're like, wow, he's so different.
yeah, that, and I guess I do like how he kind of shows up at the end. I think that's some of the themes I really like is like I was saying,
I
like,
think
people kind of becoming a hero. That's one of the things I love about apocalypse stories, right?
I think you gotta like remember as well, part of the conception for this remake is like body snatchers, but make it San Francisco. So like I think that like some of these characters are just like San Francisco. We're not like LA. We're not like New York. We're a little bit like different, you know? We're a little quirky. We got this guy. He's a writer. He's pissed off at this other guy who's also a writer. We got a lady running a mud bath spa. And guess what? These people work at the health department. I don't fucking know, you know? Like it's very like random decision. But I feel like I imagine to Philip Kaufman it like made sense, you know? Like he's like, I want a little bit of this because I want to inject a little bit of this personality into like the story. I don't think it ultimately fully works for me. I think they're fun, right? Like, I like Jack as a character. I like Jack and Nancy.
Yeah.
They're like a fun couple. I dig their vibe. I wish we got maybe more of them, but I also kind of wish we got less of maybe Jack. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a weird motley crew, like I said.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering why they're so weird for the story structure, but
I do love Nancy playing the music. The guy Stan, he's like, turn off the fucking music. She's like, no, it's for the plants. Like I thought that was sweet. We see this sort of like caring side of her, but again, kind of like there's something very sort of uh eerie about it, right? Because it is these like plants that are sort of like taking over.
right,
And
yeah,
then,
like she's setting up the future for
Yeah.
what the new beings will be. Yeah.
And then Mr. Gianni and her going on the other side of the door, we get those like weird demonic, like the same sort of similar to like I don't know, the sound design is really cool in this
Yeah.
movie. It's very unsettling.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot of like silence, a lot of weird like grumbling and like
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the cinematography, the lighting, and the sound design all just like work basically pitch perfect hand in hand to set the tone they're going for. I think it's more of like the structure of the story that is we take more issue with. It sounds like. Matthew takes Liz home.
yeah, and he's gonna walk her in.
Yeah, Jeffrey is creeping. We see him behind the wall. Next note I have is they find the cocooned man at the mud spa.
Yeah. He's covered in some weird, gross, hairy shit.
Yeah, and this
And
is
she knows it's Jack. I couldn't tell that it was like looked like Jack
yeah, I was
until like later on.
yeah, I was confused what was going on there exactly.
But this is where we do kind of see that he's like sleepy and shit, and
yeah,
he's
and
like sleeping.
bloody
yeah.
nose, and like the what they do with the face peeling is especially like the body horror stuff in this is very effective, really really well done.
Yeah, their faces look kind of ashy.
Yeah. Matthew comes to examine the body. They point out that it has no fingerprints like
Yeah.
a fetus.
They realize it, and he asks Jack like, "How tall are you? How much do you weigh?" And they sort of realize that the measurements line up between the two of them.
Yeah, unsettling.
And then he calls Elizabeth, and we see that she looks hella rough, and she doesn't really say anything. And Jeffrey is like there, like standing over her.
Yep.
And then we get the whole sort of like, I think that Jack is very thirsty. He wants to like sleep. Matthew goes to go check on Elizabeth.
Well, he calls her on the phone and is like, "Oh, something's very wrong here." And then
Yeah, like I said, like yeah, he's talking to her, and we can see that she clearly looks rough, and Jeffrey is standing over her, like
Yeah.
watching her, and then he leaves there. But yeah, Jack like then like he like falls asleep, and like Kibner shows up and like scares the shit out of them. That was like funnier to me than it was scary, honestly. Again, Kibner, here he is, dude.
Here he is. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, get Kibner down here. He's a psychiatrist. What does Kibner have to say about this situation?
He's written several books.
I have no. Yeah, it's so. Like first, like I kind of get that you call Matthew to check this out because he's at least in health and is your friend. Like, I guess that. Call the police first of all. Like, if unless you suspect the police already, why would you not call the police?
Yeah.
But the fact that they bring in Matthew and then Matthew's like, no, we have to get the psychiatrist here. It makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense. I don't fucking get it. They just fucking love that guy. This movie loves
Should have
Dr.
just been called
Kibner.
Kibner, dude.
Invasion of the Kibner. God, yeah, he dominates this movie in an insane way. It's like such an important part of this.
Maybe it was just like everyone loves Leonard Nimoy. It's the 70s, Star Trek. I don't know.
I don't fucking know, dude. I don't know, and honestly, maybe I don't care. I like that when Matthew goes to check on Elizabeth, and he's like peeking in on Jeffrey watching the TV, and we get a part where we see Jeffrey's watching a TV with the headphones on, and there's like these gauges, and one says like barometer. Like it's so fucking funny. Like he's just watching something boring as fuck.
Yeah, I did think that was really interesting. Like I did like stop to just think about like, so yeah, what are these pod people about when they're not podding the world up? Like it seems like he genuinely is curious about what's on TV and stuff, right? Like
No, he's watching something meaningless. It feels like maybe it's like weather. I think that's like the only thing they really care about.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have like the like megaphone like
But
saying the
like
weather at
the
one point.
reason, yeah, the reason I don't think it was meaningless is because he doesn't suspect anyone else to be a threat in the house. So it's not like he's trying to put up a cover at that point. It seems like that's just what he's doing when he's hanging out.
Yeah, he wants to know if it's going to be optimal growing conditions tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that. Creepy.
The way that he sneaks around the back and like this is wild, dude. He breaks the way like what what's going on? Like he breaks the window and shit like and he's breaking into the house to come and I guess does he think that like Jeffrey is like I don't know, man. Like it's just so wild. And again, why doesn't he call the police if he's so worried about as you always
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot going on here that's weird. I think before he breaks in, we also get the eyes opening on Jack's duplicated, the mud bath, and like hair grabs them. Um, and that's when they really kind of finally accept, like, okay, this is supernatural. This isn't just some weird event, like, or not supernatural, but like there's something extremely messed up here going on.
Yeah, this is it's I think this is all the part where he breaks in is all a continuous scene, and the part before where Jack is really thirsty and he falls asleep, that's like this. That's all like a scene before the whole like approaching the apartment thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that is freaky when he opens his eyes and then like she wakes up like real Jack, and then that the thing's nose is like bleeding. So weird.
It's also weird. Yeah, that.
And then that's when they're startled by our favorite character in this movie, Dr. Kibner. Dr. Kibner's shirt's incoming.
And then we get the he goes upstairs. He sneaks past Jeffrey. We see Liz. The copy of her. I like again. I think the most effective stuff for me in this movie is just like all the super creepy, weird, like body horror, practical effects stuff. Genuinely very horrifying. Yeah, the copy of her kind of like surrounded in this vegetation too. It's just like
Yeah, it looks cool. I like it.
yeah, me too. He picks her up, runs out of the place. And a little inconsistent, I guess. Here, like this is part of the reason I was confused if sleep killed them. Is like she's been sleeping for a while. How long does it take for them to die if they die from this? Like the rules are very unclear. But whatever. He grabs her, runs out of the place. And again, I do, even though this is kind of like a strange conclusion given his evidence, there's also something really weird going on, and she's been worried about Jeffrey and now can't get a hold of her. I do like the more like heroic aspects of Matthew. And it does feel like a hero moment, of him running through the basement with her in his arms and stuff and getting out of there and taking
And then
care of
Jeffrey.
her. Yeah, the scream. Love that stuff. The body at the mud shop is now vanished. And then the police come.
Very, very convenient, I might say.
Yeah.
Also, what actually happened to it?
The body at the mud shop
Yeah.
it escaped out the window, right?
Yeah, I guess it did. So they can both be awake at the same time.
Yeah.
This is so strange.
Yeah, because we see that. Do we see it again? Yeah, no, it is confusing.
Well, there seems to be a lack of consistency around here. Could do with perhaps an investigation by the one and only Hercule Poirot.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too, because we
You think Poirot should be in this movie?
Poirot, I think, would fix this movie for me.
Oh,
Instead
God.
of Kibner, if they were calling it Poirot.
That's a weird movie that I am like, keep going, just do it.
Yeah.
I'm not asking why fucking Dr. Constantine is in the movie, because he's fucking great.
Yeah.
I do ask questions about choices for accents and stuff in that movie though, but regardless.
Yeah, the police show up to Elizabeth's place. Her body's now gone. Classic police don't believe. I like that Jeffrey. I love a
lot of business.
I do like that how the way Jeffrey plays it cool here. Like that's more unnerving that the pod people are so like calculated and logical. We're like, oh, I don't need to press charges. That just brings more attention to this. I'm just going to no, everything's fine. Will Elizabeth be coming home later? Like even more creepy,
So fucking weird. So and then the way that he is like you know what? That's okay. Let him take her. At the end, like so, but I mean, it makes sense because he's a pod person. But I think the along with the practical effects, the effectiveness of like how creepy and cold, like the performances of the pod people, I think are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think the premise is so good, and like
yeah.
they do a great job with the tension most of the time when they're not breaking it up with scenes like this next one where they're all trying to convince Kibner. But this is where I really started to be like, yeah, no, I wrote a note here.
We literally waste 10 fucking minutes on this bullshit.
Going over events with Kibner, and then I started, why do they need to convince Kibner?
Yeah. Why? Dude, okay, so there is something fun about his character. You know how he has that leather thing on the back of his hand?
A letter thing? No.
A leather thing.
Oh, leather. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah. He's wearing the glove. Yeah.
No, he's not wearing a glove.
What is it?
He's wearing just like a leather thing on the back of his hand, and like it wraps around his like middle finger and his wrist. And they decided to give him that, or I think Leonard Nimoy picked that because he had a friend who wore one to cover a burn on the back of his hand, but they just chose it to be like to make him like more visually distinctive and easier to remember. Very wild choice. But
yeah.
fun little factoid.
I mean, fine. I guess it worked because I do remember it. And yeah, like you pointed it out.
I mean, it worked because I was like, what the fuck is that doing there?
Yeah, I just thought it was like a fingerless glove. I didn't notice that was just on top. Interesting.
He had some weightlifting gloves on.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought I thought it was a weird 70s style thing.
You think it was a reference to Andrew Dice Clay? He's about to start doing jokes that would get people canceled these days.
Yes.
Hey, you know, the deal with Brad's is that's what he sounds like, right? You know what I'm talking about? Dice? No, that stand-up comedian? Oh God, dude. Gotta get some dice in you.
I guess so.
No, you shouldn't, dude. Yeah. I think a lot of the shit he says is probably pretty reprehensible.
This is where we find out the mayor is a patient of Kibner. Kibner says he'll talk to him. I think Kibner tells Matthew here, he's like, I believe you. We've been friends too long. And I'm like, finally, okay,
it's so
cool.
strange.
I'm glad we can get past
this
plot point.
I do love that they're outside for the shot. It is a like cool looking, again, like a lot of the outside shots with, like you said, San Francisco sort of in the background.
Yeah,
it looks really good. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
like, hey, you know what, Philip Kaufman, San Francisco is definitely a character in this movie.
Yeah, 100%. And then we get the reveal. Kibner is one of them. He gets in the car with some of the other people that have been confirmed to be pod people.
With Jeffrey, and then the lady from earlier, her name is Catherine. So right. Catherine's husband and Jeffrey are both in the car with him.
Wasn't there the kind of like balding guy we see?
That's Catherine's husband.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Catherine was the lady from the book signing.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Then we got the flower in the pot that Jack is smelling.
This is where like Elizabeth is like, wait, it's probably linked to the flower.
Yeah.
Which feels a little bit like a leap, but at the same time, I guess kind of makes sense. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, this new species of plant she can't identify is here, and now it's suddenly in their flower pot, and she had just found it right before all of this happened. Like, yeah, it's a little convoluted.
I guess that's why she has the scientific background and everything. But like, I, as a person with access to the internet, if I found a flower, I would be so hard pressed to be like, I found an unknown species of flower. I'd be like, it's probably somebody has identified it. I just haven't found the right resource. She doesn't have the internet. Yeah. She has a bunch of reference texts.
Yeah.
And she thinks that's hubris to me. Like that's wild. But like I understand its role in the way that the film works, but as like my day-to-day as a human, I'm like, that's crazy. I would not make that leap to think I had discovered a new flower.
Yeah, I guess so like she's clearly very interested in this, right? I imagine that she is just like super into cataloging flora in general, and that's why she grabs it, and that's why it stood out to her, and that's why she kind of obsesses over it that night when she can't find it, and she's like, that's so weird, it must be a new species. So like I think that standing out to her is strange, and then being like, and then this all started around then. I buy it. I buy it.
Look, I buy her hobby and everything, but like, dude, I'm not gonna like, as a person with like a hobby, to be like, like I'm not even a professional in this field.
Yeah.
To be like, that's a little wild to me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, obvious. Like I should. It's interesting. There's never like she doesn't go to. Oh, they're so obsessed with fucking Dr. Kibner. How about fucking Dr. Flowers or some fucking shit?
That's actually a good point. Yeah, Dr. Kibner should have been a freaking
or if she was like
vegetation specialist,
if she was
or
like
whatever.
a botanist, then like okay, I get it, but that's not her area.
Yeah.
That's not her area of expertise. Like,
Yeah. You're right. I think
it's kind of like the broad sciencey thing from Tremors. I feel like maybe that's supposed to be the read on it, but
yeah, that's fine. There's enough other things that I have issue with. This doesn't bug me.
I mean, but if we're talking about it right now, I was just like, to be so confident that you've discovered a new species of flower,
yeah,
is wild to me.
Yeah, for sure. Nancy says, "Why not a space flower?"
And then she says the thing I said earlier.
Yeah.
The spacemen mated with apes to create the human race.
And that's happening now.
God. Her saying that, I was like, man, wow. That is wild that she said that. Also, I'm like more attracted to her now because I have a problem for being attracted to insane people.
And then we have Elizabeth bringing the flower into the office. The doctor in there is testing it, and this really is the like it could be anyone. It just keeps escalating throughout this because at this point I'm like, is the doctor one of the pod people? Who isn't a pod person?
Yeah.
And like
Alan is really reprimanding her. Before this, we do have Matthew calling Kibner, and Kibner's not in, and then he calls the police, and they're like, "Are you calling about imposters?" And there's this weird thread where like, okay, the police are like sort of leading Matthew on, and it has this cool role of like we get a lot of like voiceover later on of them talking on the phone about like imposters and like, oh, you're like being recruited. Like it seems like they're basically like convincing him like, oh yeah, you're like I don't know, just planting like a false breadcrumb trail for him is what it felt like.
Yeah, basically trying to shut him up by saying, "Oh yeah, we're on your side and we're gonna work on this."
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it publicly.
Keep this between us. Yeah, makes sense.
But like I was saying, Alan, fuck, you really like reprimands Elizabeth. She's like, you're like late and stuff. I'm not gonna let you test it. I'll test it for you, but just know I'm watching you. Okay,
Yeah.
Your performance is slipping.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of leaning towards pod person, right? He really doesn't want her to test it herself.
Yeah, that's what I figured as well.
Matthew meets with the mayor assistant.
Ted Jessup calls Mr. Bonnell, and they want to meet at where? Union Square.
Oh, yeah.
The setting for the opening shot of...
Oh, okay, the conversation.
The conversation.
Okay, yeah, I didn't connect that. That's great.
San Francisco.
Love that.
If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear a pod flower in your hair. One of us.
Yeah, that is funny. 2 70s movies within a couple weeks in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, dude, San Francisco is a cool place.
It is. I like San Francisco.
I love the shots of Chinatown earlier in the movie. I was like, oh man, like just like felt like I'm walking through the street, and it's wild to see it back then too. That was really fun.
Yeah, it's cool. He goes back to the dry cleaning shop, and the owner is now saying, "Oh no, my wife's much better now," which is kind of just solidifying that this is closing in around them, right? Everyone who there's less and less people left.
There's also like a lot of shots of him in like making phone calls in like phone booths.
Oh yeah. I like this section.
And they're telling him, don't talk about people being duplicated. Everyone around him seems off. I love the way that starts to happen. More and more people seem off. There's all this thing that happens throughout the movie where the word for sound that occurs within a movie, that's not like the score, that like the characters are supposed to be able to hear.
Diegetic, right?
Diegetic sound. And the like sounds, the natural sounds of like crickets and like birds lessens throughout the movie. And at the end, it's just like mechanical sounds that you can hear. Also, the fucking pod growing, like there's like this really cool like sound design for that that we see later on. The heartbeat is the heartbeat from Ben Burt's the ultrasound recorded on his pregnant wife. So that's his like child's heartbeat.
Oh my god.
And then the screams that you hear later on. Those
Yeah.
are pig squeals.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, they're very good, very creepy. Great. Uh, Elizabeth takes a pill from Kimner.
We see Catherine shows up and says she's better now,
Oh, right. Yeah.
which feels like a wow. That's like sort of like a threshold now where it's like, wow, there's a lot of pod people around.
Yeah. It just keeps kind of escalating for sure. Which I like. I really like that.
And then also before she takes the pill, we see that he's trying to listen to the radio and there's nothing. Like they're not getting anything. He's like, there's usually like a 24-hour like news thing. It's not on there,
Yeah. Yeah, again, like I was saying earlier, just the slow degradation of
Love that.
society in
It's really
stories
good.
like this is just so tense, so creepy. I
Yeah.
love it.
Have you seen Station 11?
No, is that a
It's a show.
okay?
It's a show
What's it on?
on HBO.
Okay, should watch it. Pretty good.
I mean, if you want to.
Okay.
I liked it. There's not so much about the slow degradation, but it is still very interesting.
Cool. Oh yeah, and then this is when this is around the sequence where I'm like starting to drag for me, where I'm like, can we like we've set up how creepy things are, but then it's just like another long scene like sitting around and talking with Kibner and stuff, and I'm like, come on.
Gotta watch the 56 one. I
Do
feel like it's very
something.
taut. Like, I think,
For sure. But then this sequence really brought me back into it, where Matthew falls asleep outside.
Yeah, I do want to make a note. We're on a podcast. Matthew does lock the gate, like he's on an episode of WTF with Mark Maron, Just want to shout out the king of pod himself, Mark Maron,
Man, I haven't listened to Mark Maron in a long time.
Dude, you know why he says lock the gates at the beginning of the episodes?
Uh-uh.
It's because that's his line in Almost Famous.
Oh.
When the tour bus is driving away, he goes, lock the gates!
Wow.
Yeah.
How random.
He has a very small role in that movie.
Yeah, that is so funny.
But anyway, we love you, Mark. Have a son sometime. We both love cats, so,
Hell yeah. Yeah, this whole sequence though, him falling asleep in the chair, the hair grabbing him, the plant, the pod opening up and just seeing this like weird fleshy inside, like just great horrible body horror that just really, my jaw was just on the floor.
It was
this.
Cronenbergian almost.
Yeah, it was so disturbing.
This was definitely when I had the note, when I most noticed those lonely dog barks off in the distance.
I love that. Yeah.
Before he falls asleep, there's like this just like, and I did write a note that says it represents the lost friends.
That's good. I love that.
Woof woof.
There's
the big thrumming too, like from the pod,
Yeah.
like the way it like moves. Oh man, it's so fucking disturbing.
It was
dude.
extremely effective.
And there's the weird baby.
Yes, just the birth of the horrible baby man. Like it
Yeah.
has like the body of a man with the face of a baby. Like,
Yeah, it's fucking freaky.
It's a really, really unsettling, and I love it. But really interesting that there's 3 here, right? And so, like you were saying earlier, like how are they being drained? How are the other ones created? Because later we see that the duplicate happens for Elizabeth when she's not even hooked up to a plant. So it seems
Just in a random field that they fall asleep in.
Yeah, so it almost seems like it comes, like you were asking where, how do they dehydrate and stuff? It almost seems like the plant's in them, but they need to fall asleep in order for it to create the coffee.
Do they say that at one point? It's inside of us or something?
I think so, something, yeah, along those lines. So, but it's just interesting here that all 3 of them are out in the garden while they're inside. So I guess it's coming. The plants.
There weren't 4 of them?
Maybe there were 4. I only remember seeing 3. But yeah, very unsettling. I love it. It's really, really good. Probably some of my, like I said, some of my favorite stuff in this movie.
The scream too, that like
Yeah.
sort of like wakes Matthew. And I thought I had put a note wrong here because I had put like Nancy screams, but as I was watching, I was like, no, it really is Nancy because she's like, wake the others, and they're growing all around. That was great. A thing about it too is like we're getting so in the weeds about how it works, like the process wise. And the choice for him to work at the health department, the testing thing is all teasing like the idea of some sort of scientific explanation,
Yeah.
but that never materializes, which like is interesting, but I would prefer if that's the angle that there is a little bit more maybe like technical jargon. We get a little bit of that with like Nancy and Elizabeth talking it out, but I'm almost like drop the kib, give me more science, like, and make it move a little bit faster, you know?
Fair. Yeah.
There's like the business with the police and stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
they call him, or Matthew calls them, and they already know his name. And this is in the 70s, so they don't have no caller ID going and stuff. So
Yeah.
he's like, "How do you know my name?" Which is good stuff. Yeah, as far as the science stuff goes, I don't necessarily need it. Just because
you don't, I do.
Just because
I don't need it, but like if you're gonna tease it this much,
Yeah.
then give me a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, my take on it is just that it's like they're leaning into the unknowable. Like you might try to understand this with science, but this is too creepy, too weird, and I don't know if we need to like dive more into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that tracks for me, but I almost feel like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of business.
There's a lot of business, brother. The power is cut. I like this. So this is where, like I said, it started picking up for me.
He also calls the Department of Justice too, but he can't get through, and the operator's talking to him, and he's like, "Wait, I was calling direct."
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, the power's out, and they're barricading the street.
And then you see them start running up on the house and stuff, which is all. Which again ties into like there's kind of a hive mind going on here. How did they all respond so quickly? Like it's everyone in the vicinity immediately knows that that they're resisting the podoning. And they start running up on the house. I love this whole sequence of them barricading the door, running out the back.
The score here is awesome. It's just drums, but they're like so chaotic.
Yeah.
It sounds like you like threw a like drum kit down a stairwell. Like it's fucking awesome. It's so great.
I love this little moment here too of Matthew's like they're about to run. He's like, okay, well I'm gonna kill these pod people first. But he's about to smash the duplicate of Elizabeth, but he can't bring himself to do it. I think that's a really nice character moment.
Hoisted by his own petard.
Yeah, but I do love him smashing his own head.
Yeah.
So brutal, so wild. Because I think back in the day, right, it was just G and PG were the two ratings, right? Because I was watching this, I'm like, this movie's rated PG, and smashing his head and shit. So
no, I mean they had X.
Was that it? It was
they had R too.
Did they have R?
Yeah.
How is this not R?
A little blood never hurt anyone.
And there's boobs.
I don't think that nudity is something that needs to be censored to that level.
I know, but if it's not the blood and if it's not the nudity, what gives you the R?
Cursing, yeah.
It's just the cursing.
I don't know, man. Don't ask me. I'm not the MPAA.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just strange. The screaming.
Do a little bit of research. You tell me.
Yeah, maybe I will. I love, they all come out, they're pointing, they're screaming, iconic stuff, chase sequence, and so while this chase sequence is very effective for me, by the end of the movie, I was like, it's a bit too much of them just running away. I don't know, where were you at with that? Where it's just like they run away, they're safe for a little bit, they run away, they're safe for a little bit, they run away, and it's like not like every time they do run away, it's like a lot of shots of them running away.
I was like, these are already minutes over. I don't know. Yeah, I was just like, this is dragging on for me.
It dragged for me.
I think also like having seen like the 56 one and being like, I really felt was very effective storytelling, and it was done like I feel like more efficiently. I'm just like, I don't need all this extra shit.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There is the cool part of where we have like they're able to like hide for a while, you know, because like Jack and Nancy like run off like a different direction, and we do have these really cool shots of all these legs as like Matthew and Elizabeth's legs like sort of walking in lockstep.
That part I thought was very
cool. And all
cool.
The different legs. That was really cool. I dug that. That was fun
because it was showing. It wasn't. Yeah, it was like showing the realization, like they're trying to fit in, so it's showing them walking lockstep.
Yeah, exactly.
And but then they kind of bump into one of them, I think, and that's when
people
they turn
realizing,
around.
that they're not pod people.
And just showing all that through their feet is super cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And I just got to point out that that is Jack's hero moment, right? And I think that is paying off his character a bit, where he is kind of, kind of meek, I guess, kind of like.
He's petty.
petty, and then here he is, standing up, being like, no, I'll distract him. I'll be the hero. I love that, and that's what I like about this movie's like messages and themes is, if we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down swinging.
Yeah. The guy in the cab that is, like I said, that's Don Siegel. Earlier, the director is in the movie as well. He's one of the guys who's like impatiently tapping at one of the phone booths that
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland is in. Also, when they're freaked out in the cab as he's like talking to them, Don Siegel had very bad vision and wasn't wearing his glasses as he was driving in that scene. So like they were apparently actually super freaked out.
Interesting.
I also love that the way that they escape the pod people and where there seems to be the least amount of pod people is like past all the like adult theaters and like strip clubs, it seems like. Because they like run past there.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's such a good point because yeah, the pod people don't care about entertainment.
Yeah, I don't like. I was like, that's so funny that this is the part of the city that still like seems the most normal. Like, I wondered what the commentary was there, if there was any, or if it was just kind of funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, like I just said, yeah, it's pointing out this is the pod people don't have our like lust, don't have our need for entertainment and stuff like that.
They're not human like us. They don't fuck. They're not cool.
Yeah, which is one of the themes, right? The anomaly that is man, right? What sets humanity apart. And I think this movie highlights that a couple times.
I mean, fucking definitely does not set us apart, but
sure.
And then we have that the cab driver ultimately is a pod person. He's asking all these questions, and you're like, is he just friendly, or is he asking too many questions?
And I like how
he is ultimately, betrays them.
Yeah, I like how quick Matthew is on his feet here, where he's like, oh, you guys, where you headed? And he's like, oh, no, we're, someone's coming in from, I think he says, like, Boston or something, right? Like, just to be like, if he is a pod person, well,
at this point, it's like everyone, it could literally be anyone.
It could be anyone, right? But just
the movie.
That he's thinking that far ahead of, like, well, if he is a pod person, that means they won't want us to leave, but they would want us to bring someone in, right?
Yeah,
so
for
that's
sure.
Very smart. And, yeah, the way that it happens, too, I love... like this execution here of you see the cops pulling someone out of the car ahead, and the taxi driver is very calm about this, and we don't see the back seats at all, and it like the cop just walks up, and the taxi driver just says both of them, right? And then it shows the back of the car, the door is already open, they're gone. I thought that was really, really well executed.
Yeah. We get them running past Harry and Pooch where they're sleeping, and there's a pod, dude. And he like kicks it, and it like bleeds, which is so fucking gross. Then they run into their work. We see that janitor again, who's actually the janitor is Michael Chapman, who I believe I think he is an editor. He's some sort of film dude, but that's another fun little cameo.
Interesting.
And then we see they're basically locked up in the office for like a while. And
they give a little smooch.
Yes, yeah, they
kind of a weird kiss.
They finally kiss.
Is it kind of a weird kiss for you?
No, sorry. Michael Chapman is a cinematographer. He did Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, The Fugitive, and Primal Fear.
Oh, wow. So he's like a big deal.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Raging Bull. Yeah, good movie.
I haven't seen it. Got to see it. I haven't seen enough Scorsese in general.
Yeah, it was a weird kiss. It wasn't very
passionate. Yeah, it was kind of just like they kind of just like touched lips more than actually kissed, and then I don't know, it was weird.
I felt nothing.
I felt something. I was like, good for them, but yeah.
Hey man, good for you. I felt nothing. I do like the way that they show the passage of time though.
Yeah.
How they they show the like slow drops into like the beaker, and then they like close in on do a very close up of the like drops, and they show the beaker again, and it's like much more full. And then they wake up because they hear like all the people organizing over the megaphone, which is the pod people's main source of organization.
Yeah. As we've gone over, yeah.
Yeah.
They love
it's
that
a
megaphone.
phone, but like make it mega. And we see all the people like carrying the pods, and we get the big sort of like thing here where it's like Elizabeth is like, we can't, like, what are we gonna do? Like,
yeah, Elizabeth
she just wants to like give up, you know, and Matthew's like, no. We can do this. Like, he believes, you know?
Yeah.
You have to stay awake.
That's why I love him. He's the hero.
And then she just grabs some speed pills that their coworker casually has.
They take 5 each.
Yeah, well, he says, how much does it say to take? She goes 1. He goes, take 5.
Yeah.
Which, do you think that's a Dave Brubeck reference?
I don't get it.
So then they know that they're here, that like, they've realized, they're like, they know that we're in here. And this is when we see Jack as a pod person. I like his line is just, it would have been easier if we had gone to sleep last night.
Yeah.
I think after having seen Sinners, there is this sort of like, there's the fun aspect of like, it's so much easier when you just accept
Just give up.
being turned,
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, like, stop wasting my fucking time. Just do it.
No, that's the point. Give the good fight. Don't go down.
Stop wasting my time. Just fucking get captured and die already, dude.
They get caught here.
We see Jeffrey. We see some more Kibner.
Yeah.
Kibner does his, like, he shoots him up with the sedative.
I
he
love
gives him the
Kibner's-
whole, like, pitch about,
Yeah.
this is why this is dope.
This is my most
Yeah,
most
yeah.
effective part in the movie for Kibner for me, right? Is his little monologue here.
Again, I think it's interesting to have like a little villain like monologue type thing. I like him sort of presenting his case, but just feels again inconsistent with the level of like processing going on in other pod people. Like it's almost like, is he like a pod queen?
Yeah, pod queen.
Pod queen.
I like that.
Yas queen? More like pod queen.
Yeah, he has that line. You'll be born again into an untroubled world. And
Yeah.
I like that. Which is, I'm sorry if we've been spoiling Sinners, but again, like the idea of like, no, we're going to create a paradise together, like in the most disturbing, unhuman way, is very unsettling.
Yeah. And a paradise that like is ultimately just to collect all the resources. It's like kind of like Galactus type shit, right? Like they just like eat the world and then like let it die.
Yep. Yeah. But not out of malice, out of just survival, which is even creepier,
The
right?
function of life is survival.
Yeah.
And Matthew is again, he's kind of giving his mission statement over and over again. He's like, people will fight you.
Yeah. And I find it very interesting that they tell him that your memories will stay intact. So they make it sound like it's your consciousness we're moving over. You will wake up in this pod. Which is so strange. And I'm not sure if that is the case or if they're just telling them that. Like, is it still them? It's just that they're not them anymore? Like, or is it just
It's like a clone situation. It like they're a clone, but they also they're like driven by the impetus of survival and carrying on the pods, right? So it is like they have their memories, but they're not the same person because their motivations are completely different.
Right, yeah, I just wasn't sure if he was trying to imply that their consciousness, it's still the same consciousness transferring over, or is it just a duplicate?
No, I don't think it's the same conscious. I think that's a far too philosophical, I think that's beyond even those like plant people to know, right? Feels like a little bit of a ship of Theseus sort of like thing,
I do like his line, like the pleading in Matthew's voice, when he's about to give him the sedative, and he's like, "David, you're killing me." Like just the hurt and betrayal there. Thought it was like an effective way to emphasize the friendship that's lost there, even if I don't like Kibner.
Yeah, for sure. I like the dog barking. I thought that was more effective. Yeah, we see.
And he also tells him there's no need to hate now or love.
Yeah. Wow, what a pitch. And then they do get them. They do like break out and like they lock
David in the freezer.
Yeah, they lock Dr. Kibner in the freezer
They
and
kill
they kill
Jack's
Jack.
clone, and he also points out here that they like he explains they came from a dying planet, and they were pushed by the solar winds throughout space, which is just like so creepy to think about. Just like these organisms, just
like floating through space.
Yeah,
like tardigrades. Pretty sick though. And then when they run into Nancy and she's like, "Where's Jack?" Right? Like, and they like kind of like don't say anything to her about it, just like sort of like gloss over it. And they're like, "All right, let's run away."
Yeah.
And Nancy, this is where Nancy sort of tells him like, "You can fool them if you just like show no emotion." That's how. And I've just been like walking around them for like hours.
I love how Nancy is such a badass. I love that she just immediately.
I mean, she's the last one standing.
Yeah, and I love that she I love that she's the last one standing, like in the background, right? You just see that for whatever reason, she was the type of person. She's a survivor, right? For whatever that means in this world, she has that drive and that will and the ability to be able to. Um, oh, you know what? Maybe that's why there's only three. Is Ms. Nancy not in the back when they're being duplicated? That might be it. It might be Jack, Matthew, and Elizabeth, which is why Nancy doesn't need to worry about sleeping, which is why she can last as long as she does.
Perhaps. And then we have like more of this sort of like them shuffling around, them trying to blend in, but then Doug with a man face runs up and Elizabeth freaks out.
Again.
And then they all run and there's the big mob. And I think this might be where they get separated from Nancy.
Oh, well, so yeah, as soon as she screams and gives them away, Nancy isn't given away, so she just
walks away. She's like,
she just blends in with the rest of the crowd, which is
sucks
smart.
to fucking suck, dude.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like,
sucks to suck.
I'm not gonna
bro.
give myself away in this situation either,
Yeah, I mean that's why she's the survivor, because she's selfish.
Yeah.
I do love when they jump in the back of the truck. We have this cool framing where you can only see what's coming up like behind them, and then they're taken to this sort of like factory where they're growing the pods, right?
Right. I do feel like I just have to emphasize, like we talked about it already, but the dog face, like again, just one of the most horrible, like terrifying things I've ever seen. I think like my mouth just dropped again, just jaw on the floor, just like
gross.
what the fuck is
It's
that?
gross, but it kind of took me out of it, honestly.
Oh really?
Yeah,
it worked for me just because it was so it looked good in the most like horrible practical effect way. Like the face was just like kind of slimy and weird. I don't know, it was very disturbing.
Yeah, I was just like, this is fucked up, but just seemed kind of, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. But yeah, it's wild, put it on a fucking t-shirt. make a stuffy of it.
Oh my god. Nightmare fuel.
Then we have Elizabeth fucking up her ankle and Matthew's carrying her through the grass, and him telling her that he loves her.
Why is she still wearing heels at this point? That's what I want to know, man. You guys have been running forever. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess they didn't have time to go back to her place to get other shoes, maybe? I don't know.
Well, he does tell Chuffrey, I'm gonna need some of her clothes.
Oh yeah.
So she's like, get me all of my high heels, none of my tennis shoes.
Yeah, I was a little frustrated by her spraining her ankle here.
You don't have to wear heels to sprain your ankle.
True. That's a good point too. Yeah.
But yeah, and then like he wants to keep moving, but she says that she can't, and then like we hear the bagpipes playing Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
He goes to the ships and see that that's all been compromised as well.
Yeah, just like, so the truck they were on was being used to transport the plants. They go to the ships are being used to deliver the plants. I think that's like, again, showing how society has crumbled,
lost.
But now it's like really in your face. The entire infrastructure of society is now dedicated to the pod people.
Yeah, I also thought it was wild. Matthew like leaves her alone, which is like such a wild thing to do in like the with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because she can't. He has to figure out. No, this is their last chance.
I get it. I mean, I get it, but it's still just like, I mean, we all know what's gonna happen right now.
Right, but I totally get why he's like, well,
Matthew,
we either get on this ship or we're fucked.
As we've seen, he is optimistic to a fault.
Yeah. When he arrives back, Liz has fallen asleep.
No, wake up!
I was genuinely sad here. I like Elizabeth. I like the relationship. The way he's like comforting her by saying the boat's going to take us away, like he wants her the last thing she hears to be some piece of hope. That was very touching to me. And then just the horror of her like imploding, dude. Oh my god.
The way she like dries up like a husk and just like crumples.
Yeah, and like it shows
it's like a soda can
holding her face as her like head just kind of like falls apart in his hands. Like, oh yeah, man, very very effective horror. I liked it.
They're both going to hell, adulterers.
Yeah, they got what that was coming to them.
Yep, that's what you get. All right, end of story.
And then naked Elizabeth appears immediately, which is just like, oh Jesus, okay, hi.
He's like, and she's like, it's painless. Come sleep. Come on.
Yeah,
we can be together forever.
Yeah, for sure. Very shining.
We get a very cool, chaotic, like jazzy piano score.
Yeah.
We get some drums and horns. I love the score during this part was awesome.
Yes. And then we kind of this is kind of the climax, right?
Yeah,
He's
Matthew's running away some more. He tries to burn down the whole warehouse. You know,
I love that. Like you said, it is futile, but to me, it's kind of the point. If there is a like underlying message of this movie, it is that like, hey man, this is what humanity is. We don't go down easy. We're going to put up a fight. You
I
know?
mean, it's like Kibner said. You know, the goal of life is to survive.
Right. Um.
We get you know, the big crowd chasing him as well. Then he's hiding under the boards, and there's a cool shot of like him looking up, and then somebody looking down, and the like light flashes
Oh,
across.
yeah, when he's hiding
and,
under the pier.
yes, and that's when it cuts to, you know, it's morning, and we don't know what's happened. If he's just trying to like blend in, or if he has been, if he's one of them now. And then we get
Well,
that.
real quick. I want to linger on the him destroying the greenhouse a little bit because it's pretty fucking awesome. Like the way that the like he's chopping, like it just feels like such a like in a movie without much catharsis. This is the most cathartic moment, right? Is him getting back at them a little bit, like, you know, with the axe chopping things down, the chaos, the fire coming up, Elizabeth walking naked through the flames, basically. I thought
It is pretty chaotic, yeah.
it was. I thought that was such a striking shot. You don't really see people naked, confidently like walking through a scene very often. So that was just
Only
like,
in horror movies, really.
right. Yeah, or like yeah, I was thinking of the Terminator, right, where you see him walking around naked, calm, cool, collected, unaware, unshameful, like just like striking imagery. I thought, and then you know her stopping and pointing up and giving him away. I also have a note here. Why is he still wearing his tie? Come on, man. You're this far into the apocalypse, but you're like, no, I still gotta look good.
Well, it is comfy on him. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's got a shirt that fits. It's nicely tailored to him.
Fair enough. But yes, catching back up to the next day. I assumed it wasn't him, or like I assumed it was still him. That he did.
It's weird how he cuts the thing out of the newspaper, like, you know, like, which is something we saw him do earlier in the movie. So it feels like he's kind of like you're being kind of told like, no, he's just kind of blending in.
I thought he was just blending in, and like a really evocative moment, I think, in hindsight, especially, is that he sees the duplicate of Elizabeth go into the elevator and go down, and he kind of stops and looks at her because, as it's been established, he still has the memories of Matthew, who was so in love with her. So it's like it's almost like the pod person is just contemplating what that meant, and there's almost like not regret, but just like interest in that, right? Like.
Yeah, for sure. I also I like the shot of like the thing spinning at the bottom of the beaker. Everyone's just like staring off into the distance.
Yeah.
And then it stops and it points at him.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I was like, okay, is this telling me that he is or he isn't a pod person? Like, and then ultimately with the last scene, which I think is like I think the last scene really ties it together for me in a way that makes me leave the movie like feeling like that was dope. That was really, really well done. Super well executed film. Like, I think it's just such a good ribbon on top of everything.
Nancy coming up. I mean, it's the perfect for our
There's
genre
also
of it could be anyone.
The way that he's walking past these weird, dead-looking alien trees.
Yeah.
It's
stood out to me too.
So unsettling. And
Yeah.
she calls out to him, and the way he just turns and like points and shrieks.
Gives the shriek, and she's just has a mental breakdown.
And then on top of that, the credits are done over complete silence.
Yeah, that really stood out to me too. Just what a haunting. I feel like it's something TV shows will do a lot of times. Like the most dramatic episode, just cut to silence nowadays. You know, and I always thought that was very effective.
Yeah. I think the end, that specific part really brings it all together for me in a way that could have really been derailed by some of this fucking Dr. Kibner bullshit.
Yeah, well, that's 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Alfredo. I was very on the fence whether or not my ranking would be a C or a B because there is so much stuff that I didn't really like that much. However, the stuff that I do really like is so effective. Like the horror aspects of it are so effective, but it does drag so much. But I think I'm still going to lean towards a C, unfortunately. I mean, C's still good. That means I enjoyed it. But, like, I don't know. It could be a B as well. Where are you at with it?
I think I'm going to give it a B. I think There's a lot of great technical aspects to it.
Yeah.
Some great performances overall. I feel like I probably like it less than you, but I'm still gonna give it a B because I just think there's a lot of, like, again, the story elements that I dislike, like I really fucking dislike, but I am ultimately able to like sort of overlook them. I think also like I was being hard on it when I watched it because I was like, I could be fucking watching a fucking 35-minute shorter fucking movie right now. But and I think again, like I've said, the tautness of the 56 story, like I like a lot. Like there's not a lot of the extra business that I'm talking about. But I don't know, it's like it's a fun movie. There's some cool vibes to it.
I think I'm gonna bump it up to a B. Not to cut you off, but just like
You did, but that's okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Just that how memorable and unique it is, and how yeah, like I said, how effective some of it is. I think makes it stand out, and like I would recommend it for people who are looking for just like a really creepy, weird, classic movie.
I think if you like graphed it out and like you had like the scenes like laid out on like a matrix and you attributed like the impact that the scenes have on like the rating, like the way like the like weight of that last scene, the effectiveness of all of the things that have been set up for that moment is really what gives it like this sort of extra push where I like leave like again, the last thing you kind of say is so impactful in that way in movies. As we talked about in the Sinners episode, there's like this critical period, I feel like, after you watch a movie where you're so open to sort of suggestion before your like ideas crystallize, and then it really takes a more in-depth conversation to kind of move some of these ideas. And I feel like at the end, the way it ends, it was just like really kind of like boom, and I like respect the shit out of
Mic
that.
drop.
Like they put a lot of fucking like eggs in that fucking basket.
Yeah.
I think knowing the different like trivia about it, the way that ending worked and that she didn't know, I love that. I also love all of the like cross collaboration between like having Kevin McCarthy for like the lead from like the 56 one, having Don Siegel. There's a lot of love. And I think that that's kind of really cool about it, where it's like this remake where it's like, we're not trying to like, we're going to do our own thing. We're not like, we want to pay homage, but we don't want to like reconstruct. Like there's something cool about like the like sort of attitude towards the remake in this. So I respect that. I like it a lot. Yeah, B tier for sure.
Yeah, I think I'll settle on a B as well. Effective, interesting, cool. Good sci-fi stuff.
Yep. And now that's the end of the episode. That's it. End of the show. Thanks so much. Check you later. Just joking. Next week we're watching another It Could Be Anyone movie. That's kind of the format of the show.
Yes, sir.
As touched upon on the top end.
We're watching Clue.
Yeah, we are, exactly.
I've never seen it. I think I've seen like some scenes from it, but I don't have any memory of it. I think it takes place in a mansion, classic whodunit situation, but it's like a parody comedy. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like it is more of like a straightforward like comedy. Yeah, a parody of the sort of whodunit, but
Right.
like still very of the genre in a way. And as we talked about, like I think like a lot of whodunits do have like these comedic aspects, like that we like increasingly so. Like we were talking about like Knives Out and shit.
Mhm.
And even like the old Poirot that we watched. But this one is like straight up like leaning into like this is like a comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I love that movie. I think I've only seen it. I think I've seen it a couple times. But yeah, I think it was always on like Comedy Central as well, or like on other like just on like cable, and would watch it with my sister, and it was an easy one for both of us to like agree to watch.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be pretty fun. As we always say at the end of the episode, please like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, share the pod with your friends. And as I've been saying, I'm going to be reading 5-star reviews. I actually went ahead and looked, and we do have a 5-star review. This 5-star review on Apple Podcasts is titled "It Rips." And it says, "This podcast rips. Alfredo rips, Connor rips, movies rip, and that was left by by Levi Nightgun. And I actually know this guy. He is a really awesome, really dope dude. We played several shows together. He's in a really cool band called Nestor. They've just put out some music on a compilation for Grenade Bunny. So definitely check them out. They're fucking awesome. They're N3Ster.NBA on fucking Instagram. Thank you so much, Levi. I really appreciate you leaving the fucking 5-star review. Yeah, he told me personally at a show of his, he was like, yeah, I listen to every episode, and I can't thank you enough. That means the world to me. You know, like,
yeah, thank you, man.
Thanks to all of you who out there who are listening, even if it's one episode or whatever. We really appreciate it.
We do.
Keep on leaving those 5-star reviews.
Like and comment too.
Like and
Help
comment.
us out in that algorithm.
Subscribe. Feel free to reach out with any questions you have, any qualms. You know, we're open to conversation as long as it's carried out in a civil way.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Again, we are Cinema Forecast. That is Cinema Fourcast. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, all the other shit.
And we'll see you in the forecast.
Cut to silence.